Welcome back. Karibu sana to the program. My name is Victor Oloo. Thank you so much for staying with us. It's now time for us to take a look at what we have on our local dailies before we get into today's discussion on the viewpoint. Today we'll be talking about the issue to do with politics, sustainable development and governance. Which way Kenya? Which way Kenya? Politics, sustainable development and good governance. Which way Kenya? In studio, I have got Honorable Wilson Sossion joining me in studio. He's nominated Member of Parliament. Mheshimiwa, karibu sana to the program.
Thank you and good morning.
As well as Odera, who is a youth peace and security practitioner and an expert. She calls herself daughter of the soil. Karibu.
Asante.
Asante sana. And joining me shortly in studio is Joseph Cherorot, who is Member of Parliament of Kipkelion East. Okay, before we get there, how about I take you through the traffic situation in the city and across the country. Let me start with Nairobi. Today is the traffic situation in Nairobi is pretty okay. Looking at, because it's actually 10 minutes past 7. So if you are still in the house, this is the time for you to start getting out. Now, let me start with Ngong Road. If you are using Ngong Road, then this is the time for you to leave the house and drive to work or take your way to work. Of course, Ngong Road moving very well. Just around Junction Mall is a bit of some traffic because of the traffic lights there, but moving down all the way to Adams Arcade is moving very well until you come to around, this is around City Mortuary, thereabout, around Daystar University, a bit of some snarl up at the roundabout, but down to Valley Road and ultimately into the CBD is moving very well. That is how the traffic looks like along Ngong Road. So at Ngong Road, you are good to go. How about residents using Langata Road? Langata Road, so far so good. Out of 100%, I can give it 95 because down to Uhuru Gardens, moving towards Wilson Airport, so far so good. Mbagathi Way, outbound also moving very okay, but coming down to Langata Road and then taking the Slip Road just behind the Nyayo National Stadium, also moving okay, joining Uhuru Highway and finally into the CBD. Now, just after that, let's go to Mombasa Road. Mombasa Road, you have an option. You can either use the expressway or use the normal route, the road that you usually use, that is Mombasa Road, looking very okay. All the way from Maradaima Shopping Mall, coming down to Ole Sereni, at around Capital Center, South B, thereabout, joining Nyayo National Stadium and ultimately to the CBD. That is as far as that's concerned. How about Watu Westlands? So far so good. I think there is nothing much to talk about here around Westlands. Moving very well, coming to Kempinski, the National Museum, overpass, joining Uhuru Highway, University Way, and into the CBD. So far, so good. Moving very quickly to Watu Mombasa, good morning. There's a bit of some snarl up today around Kongoya Market. If you are just coming using the Nyali Road, around, you know, it's a bit of a traffic. This place is called Kengeleni or Lights. Watu Mombasa will tell us better. There's always a traffic situation here because of the Kongoya Market, but just after that, coming to the new Nyali Bridge, moving okay, to CBD, also iko tu sawa. Around Makupa Police Station, thereabout, is a bit crazy, kidogo tu, but so far, so good, Watu wa Mombasa. You have your time to go to work. How about Likoni Ferry, crossing ferry there? So far, so good. So if you're using the Likoni Ferry, rush and catch your ferry to work. Kisumu, good morning. Again, moving from that side of Riat Hills down to Kondele roundabout into the Kisumu CBD. So far, so good. There's nothing much to report about in Kisumu, all the way from Nyamasaria, that is outbound from Nyamasaria coming into the CBD, also moving okay. That is as far as this is concerned. The blue patch is the lake. My director Okinyi says that I should also take a look at the traffic on the lake. There's no traffic, Okinyi. I mean, it's okay. Iko sawa. You see that? Right, that's fine. And finally, what were Eldoret? So far so good. there is no traffic situation. I think this is because of the bypass which was constructed cutting all the way outside the CBD. That's how the Eldoret town looks good. That's how it looks like. So far, so good. Okay, I'll come back and take you through the front page of our international dailies. But how about now? Taking you through the front page of our local dailies. Let me start with the front page of the Daily Nation, searching for a deal. That is on the front page of the Daily Nation, searching for a deal. On the front page, we have got two big boys. I call them the two big boys. You have the president there and opposition chief Raila Odinga. A lot has been talked about with the presence of Tanzanian President Mheshimiwa Suluhu, having been in the country a fortnight ago. How true is that? We'll be looking at that later on. Protest called off today to allow for vigil for victims. That's according to the opposition. That's on the front page of the Daily Nation. Into the inner pages here, former Governor Samboja returns to radio. I think that is his profession, his background. And again, search for a deal. Inside efforts to break deal with the Ruto and Raila impasse. That is inside efforts to break Raila-Ruto impasse. That is on the inner pages here of the Daily Nation on page 4 and page 5. Completely fleshed out there for you to take a look at that. Is there an offing in the horizon? Azimio said to resume protest, file ICC case over police brutality. That is what we have on the front page of the Daily Nation, and we'll be taking a look at that shortly. And time is running out for bipartisan talks. Kenya Kwanza tells Azimio they gave them some conditions, and now Murugara says that reconstituting the Electoral Commission remains top priority for the talks team, and that is what is on the inner page of the Daily Nation. Before I take it to my guest so that we can take a look at what we have on the front pages, Mheshimiwa Sossion, there is an African proverb here. If you think you are too small to make a difference, try spending a night with a mosquito. What do you make of that proverb? Africans, if you think that you're too small to make a change or a difference, just try and spend a night with a mosquito.
And you also remember the old narrative of how the mosquito wanted to marry the ear.
Yes.
And that's why the mosquito keeps coming to intimidate the ear every night. A mosquito is so small, but it can give very, very painful bites. So small as it is, it can do big things. So, and other wise men elsewhere say, little things count.
Yes.
So don't ignore.
Don't ignore.
Biblically, you remember the parable of the builder. The stone that was ignored.
Finally, they came for them.
Yes.
Yes.
So we can go across civilizations and religious groupings and different civilizations, and there'll be many such words. Don't ignore anyone. Don't ignore anyone. Everyone matters, and everything counts.
Yes.
Even the little ones. Yeah.
They will come to help at some point.
Absolutely.
Christine, what do you make of that proverb? Africans will be the end of me. Good morning.
Good morning. It just goes to show how little efforts cause a ripple effect. And we should not overlook those small steps, because it's those small efforts that cause the huge change that we're all looking for and speaking about. And so no one should feel like they do not count. Everyone is entitled to their own efforts, because we all have different talents. And it's in those small talents, when we bring them together, then we're able to effect change and cause a lot of havoc for that matter as well. Yes.
Mosquito is a very small animal, but you see the ripple effect. Malaria, one of the leading causes, just to open the discussion, Mheshimiwa Cherorot. But how do you interpret it? If you want to feel that you're too small to make a difference, then try spending a night with the mosquito, and just one. The entire night you will not have a good one.
Victor, I'm one person who cannot spend a night with a mosquito. So long as it is in my room, I'll wake up at night and make sure that I destroy it, because it can cause destruction to your health. And also, even though it's a very tiny insect, it causes problems, and you might end up in hospital. So this means that you don't have to ignore or take things as petty issues. You have to take it seriously and make sure that it is under control. Yep.
How do you relate it with our current situation and governance in the country, Christine? Because you all agree that we should not ignore small things. Even when you're feeling unwell generally, you start by the symptoms. I'm feeling this and that, I'm feeling this and that. Then you seek an alternative from the doctor. But how do you relate this proverb with the small things that we take for granted in our system of governance currently in Kenya?
I think it goes down to the basic principles of governance. Taking responsibility, accountability, and making sure that the rule of law is observed at all costs. Have we seen that? Maybe not.
Yes.
And so maybe it's those then small pockets of people experiencing social injustices, then coming out to say, but this has not been done. You promised me this, but you have not done that. And so we are seeing a lot of little efforts within different cohorts of people coming to really champion their issues because they have not been addressed. And so these little efforts coming from across the country, really trying to address the social injustices, the lack of accountability, the lack of fulfillment of some of these promises, and the lack of rule of law. Yes.
Lack of rule of law. Mheshimiwa Sossion, your background is classroom. And as a teacher, there's little things that you see in a student. I'd like us to also broaden that discussion. You pick a student who probably has some social background affecting their learning progress. How do you connect this to a student and generally to a country, little things in terms of governance?
Yes, and I remember every time I talk to students, I told them little things count. Small things that you ignore are the things that can make you grow big. And in teaching background, there is what you call individual difference. When you're teaching, you're not teaching a crowd. You're teaching an individual.
An individual. Yes.
And they present themselves differently. So you address the needs of each and every individual, and that requires a lot of pedagogical skills to do that, so that you carry everybody along. And that brings me to the issue of what you call national unity. We are not reinventing the wheel. All these things were addressed at independence, and the national philosophy was coined, that how are we going to carry ourselves as independent Africans in developing ourselves and moving with the developing world. And our forefathers coined the philosophy of peace, love, and unity. Let our people be united in what they are doing, in development, and let our people live in peace, not conflicts, not strife, not inflicting pains on your neighbor or causing suffering. Let everybody live in peace, and let people love themselves. And in East Africa, if you look at the regional level, if you look at Tanzania, they were able to really exterminate tribalism. There are many tribes in Tanzania, but
kind of mantle they're riding on.
The philosophy of Ujamaa, and there was strong leadership from Mwalimu Nyerere. Kenya, we adopted the capitalist system. We started struggling for land right after independence, fighting each other, stealing, promoting corruption. And if you look at it, now we are 60 years old. It's a very resilient economy. But that has been mismanaged because of self-interest. Eventually, we forgot the leadership that coined the same philosophy of peace, love, and unity, vacated that route, and went the route of ruthlessness. And that is why even in every electioneering year, people reflect on how to address the needs of everybody.
Right.
And when you look at the new government, Kenya Kwanza, it was formed out of political confusion that was promoting dynasties and the interest of dynasties at the expense of the poor people. And that is why the Kenya Kwanza came up with a bottom-up economic. When you look at the bottom-up, you draw the pyramid of Kenya. Millions of Kenyans are at the base. They are suffering. They have no economic opportunities. They cannot access food. They cannot access the basic services. And education of their children is at stake. Health services, very poor. And that is why there's been that revolution that we must deliberately focus on that. We can't ignore. We need to carry everybody along. Carry everybody and everyone. And no one should be left behind going into the future. And I'm happy that philosophy, the new philosophy, is taking root. And it is now internalized in the feelings of Kenyans. And Kenyans are looking forward to a new republic, a new economic order. If you look at the last elections, it was not more of politics. It was not. It was about the economy. It was the politics of the economy and equality and social equality and how to push people from the bottom. Because jurisdictions and democracies that have taken everybody up, and particularly in the global north, has been driven by strong social democratic policies where people at the bottom unite and they support a political arrangement that speaks to their issues. This is exactly what happened in Kenya, and President William Ruto was able to drive that agenda and sell it across tribes. And for the first time, we saw an election where tribalism was very insignificant. And people were speaking to issues, they voted, and even those who were still slaves of tribalism and the dirty thinking of the past were surprised and shocked with the mind shift of Kenyans when presidential elections results were announced. I was an agent at Bomas, and I saw the numbers, how they came right across. And up to now, some have not believed that Kenyans are now thinking differently. We have a generation, a very vibrant generation, a very optimistic generation that wants to be part of the global economic order. These are our Kenyans, and we must give them that space.
All right.
Let me ask
Mheshimiwa Cherorot on this, because what you've talked about is about unity. And when you see this headline here, searching for a deal, let's also just open it a bit. Searching for a deal for Kenyans. Let's just say the two gentlemen are out of the equation, out of the picture, but Kenyans are now searching for a deal amongst ourselves. Now that is good governance and sustainable development. If we are going to have sustainable development in a nation, then we are going to look for a deal amongst us. Mheshimiwa Cherorot, based on this, how do you open this discussion based on this headline, excluding the two gentlemen on the front page?
Okay, Victor, searching for a deal, as you have said, actually, if we can go back, let's go back a bit to the history of this country. Let's go back to 2007, where the country was banned, where we had Kofi Annan, who came and he brokered actually the peace in this country. And right now, we did a very, very peaceful election. Kenyans actually voted. They demonstrated also their rights and by voting Kenya Kwanza. And we had a very peaceful election, as our friend has mentioned. But after that, things actually changed after some times. I don't know what happened. I don't know what came into the minds of Azimio leaders. And they went ahead actually by taking people to the street. Otherwise, we had a peaceful election, and the Kenya Kwanza government was very, very ready and geared to move forward in this country with the development and all that. Every party also has got as a political party, has got a manifesto to deliver, and the same thing with Kenya Kwanza. As we see also, Victor, we go back to this country. When we started, there are three things that actually we are trying to manage in Kenya after independence, and that was ignorance, diseases, and also poverty. Those are the key issues, and those are the basic that we are supposed to deal with it as Kenyans. And if you come a long way, we have had also those who have been president of this country, the first president, the second, and the third, and even the fourth. And if we see, Victor, what is going on now about this deal, that could that be the reason why these other people went to the street to seek for or to look for a deal? And I want to say that whether there is deal or no deal, Kenya must move. Kenyans actually, we have so many issues that are affecting us economically, and poverty also is getting on us, and so many other things. So my suggestion or my take on this is that we should not think of only this. What is the deal for, and what does it help?
Yes.
I think the best thing is that in this country, we know that in an election, the winner actually takes it all. And we should give room to the winner also to develop, and also to make sure that they deliver the manifesto. So I think that is where the challenge is. Yeah.
Let's take a break. And you've raised a very salient point there. What is the deal all about? Is it a deal between President William Ruto and Honorable Raila Odinga, or is it a deal for all Kenyans? So what's the deal all about? I mean, let's just expand that discussion so that we can understand what the discussion is all about. We'll take a break, and we come back. I'm going to take you through the front page of the Standard and the Star newspaper, even as we continue with the discussion. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. Now, let me take you through the front page of the Standard, quite different from what we have here. Civil servants to brace for July salary delays. That is civil servants to brace for July salary delay, efforts to upgrade to a new salary payment system for government workers, which seeks to boost the management of payrolls that have in the past been marred by ghost workers, has encountered hitches. There's a hitch there. And now civil servants to brace for July salary increase. Not a good point for the civil servants. The mystery of Suluhu botched mediation talks. Tanzania president was in the country on July 12th and 13th. For what Azimio leaders say were talks to end demonstrations in the country, but that her efforts were futile after she was snubbed by government. However, officials say she came for holidays. All right. Raila, Kenyans united by cost of living matter. Ruto targets big taxpayers in IMF probe. That is on the front page of the Standard. Not a good way for the civil servants as far as this is concerned. Mheshimiwa Sossion, we've covered you for so many years, even vouching for better living standard for teachers and civil servants when you are still in that docket. And when this one comes, not a good point for civil servants.
I think it's being taken out of context, and people are trying to create anxiety among teachers and civil servants. The Salaries and Remuneration Commission has developed structures, and the president has approved a salary award of 7 to 10% for teachers and civil servants beginning 1st of July 2023 and is tenable for 2 financial years in 2 equal installments of 22 billion for this financial year and 22 billion next year. And that closes the review cycle of 2021 to 2025. That is a fact. And the fact that it is still being worked on may not necessarily reflect in the July payroll. It may not, because the next stages of approval is employers engaging in social dialogue with unions and signing collective bargaining agreements, and then the rest will be the Treasury to implement. It can take some bit of time. It may not even be done in August. It can be concluded in September, and it can, if it is implemented in the payroll of October or even November, let's take it hypothetically, it can even be implemented in December. It will be backdated to the 1st of July. So those are realities. We have engaged in negotiations in the past. I remember 2011, we contested for conversion of teachers on contract to permanent. That was done and backdated to July, and the numbers enhanced to 23,000. Salaries in 2012, we were out for 21 days. That was done. It was agreed, implemented in the month of October, and backdated to July. So we should not even create stories. Making it even a headline is ineptitude on the side of the media, because you are conveying wrong information. It's a done deal. So it's a matter of administrative processes being undertaken so that it is regularized. Finally, when it is paid, and that time of when to be paid, I cannot be very sure, but I know once the processes are concluded, and the Treasury implements it, it can implement in August, it can implement in September,
and then it gets backdated.
And is backdated to 1st of July. It shall be backdated to 1st of July to the last coin.
I think that explains what's, Mheshimiwa Cherorot, just a minute. This explains what's also quoted as on the memo, so that we make it open and clear to the public that this is to inform you that that there has been a delay in processing of salaries for the month of July 2023 due to the logistic challenges occasioned by the migration of the old manual integrated payroll and the personal database, the IPPD system, to the new online unified human resource system. That's according to the memo. So you are it's just talking about the complexity of the old system, the process.
And that is a different matter altogether. Is that one now is speaking to the delay of salaries because of shift in technology to new programs. That is something else. But then working on the salary structures and regularizing is another administrative process. So those are two separate things. But then that does not mean workers will not earn. The delay because of certain factors, which has been explained convincingly in that arrangement. Workers will earn their salaries in July, maybe the normal salaries without any adjustment, or even it will be with adjustment. And then in the payroll of August, there will be changes, like even the Finance Bill, Finance Act, which has not been implemented. Once it is implemented, it will have implications on the payroll. In August, we expect those changes. But then with time, everything will. But appreciate one thing, that Kenya Kwanza government gave a commitment that it is going to retain a respected, well-supported and motivated public service. That is a philosophy, underpinning philosophy of Kenya Kwanza. And as a Labour leader who was working within the framework of developing the plan and signing various charters, I am completely satisfied.
So there's no cause for alarm.
The commitment to respect workers is good. And that is why you can see this surprise announcement, even workers were not ready for it. They were surprised that a government can make a pronouncement and can make preparation so that workers don't need to agitate for salary review. It is the responsibility of government to mobilize resources, project the needs of workers, because our policemen must be motivated. They can't work in poverty and doing difficult jobs. Our civil servants in government offices, they don't need to engage in corruption. They need to be assured that their terms and conditions of service are being reviewed with a change in inflation. Our teachers should remain motivated in the classroom and expect continuous review. This is just but the beginning. When the economy is so bad, the way it is, so dire, and government can still afford 7 to 10%, what of when the economy stabilizes?
Let me get
so it is a mission of Kenya Kwanza to retain a motivated and well-supported civil service and teachers.
Thank you. Mheshimiwa Cherorot, what's your point of order?
I wanted to add on what Sossion was saying, Victor, about this salary increment. For the first time in Kenya, salary has been increased without even demonstrations, without agitation. This shows that the commitment of Kenya Kwanza, that they are committed and they want to make sure that the country is balanced. As for the issue of the delay of salary, it was actually in the media, it was there and it was known, because due to the challenges that were there about the economy of our country. And also, you understand that we've just come from doing the budget. This will be the first budget for Kenya Kwanza. Yeah. So there has to be a lot of adjustment and there has to be a delay. So what I have to say is that Kenyans are supposed to understand that things are moving forward and there is hope. Yes.
All right. Christine, maybe you want to say something on that?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it also begs the question, why last minute? We've always known the financial calendar of government. So why last minute? And I feel if I look at it from the civil servants' perspective, they're also asking why last minute. The cost of inflation right now in Kenya is crazy. A lot of them are surviving on loans. So the longer you delay their salaries, the longer they are running the risk of running into poverty. So it's a question of why are things being done haphazardly and last minute? And those civil servants who have been in the system, and I'm sure Mheshimiwa here can tell us, understand the cycles of government. And so you keep asking yourself, so they knew they didn't have money, but they waited until the lapse of a financial year to start a conversation? Then you see, things are not adding up in that particular sense. And I think that's why civil servants who have done all their best to make sure that government is put in place are sad.
Yeah.
And so those are the questions that we should be getting answers for. And those are the answers that civil servants want to hear. Not the negotiation of we'll increase your salary. It's a matter of also timing. Because remember, the banks have a time for when those loans need to be paid. They will not consider your salaries were delayed. So those are the pertinent issues that a lot of these civil servants also want answered. Yes.
Okay. Mheshimiwa Sossion, you want to respond to that?
I think she's made it very clear. And you look at it, we must also accept challenges beyond human control. After the elections, we've had a lot of intensive disruption of government operation, which is uncalled for. And I think it has reached time government stamp its authority, and the free arms of government must work in harmony, but not in contradiction. What do you do? The Treasury has prepared a finance bill, and that is the executive arm of government, on how to implement government development programs and the manifesto that was promised by the people of Kenya, by Kenya Kwanza, because it will be implemented through public resources. National Assembly has adjudicated the bill properly, taken it through public participation, and I've seen arguments that, oh, there are so many people opposing. It's not about the numbers. It's not a referendum. Public participation, you're looking at both quantitative and qualitative aspects. You can have 90 people out of 100 rejecting something. But that does not mean in public participation you throw
that
out.
Is of good quality.
The 10 can be more convincing than the 90. So really we should not create economic confusion, political confusion, and we create an ecosystem that makes it impossible for government to operate. Now, the finance bill is in court, and you all know the Finance Act itself is an act of parliament. Was supposed to be operationalized from 1st of July, and it was envisaged to collect at least 2.8 trillion shillings in terms of taxes within the next financial year. We have lost a whole month. That means it will be less. If at all, the courts will give it a lease of life so that it can operate. In the absence of that framework of collecting revenue, the revenue collection measures are placed in jeopardy. Then the expenditure side, the Appropriation Act, Mheshimiwa is here, it ceases to exist. And part of the appropriation is salaries. So it's logics. you pay money and you appropriate and you expend from collection. So if you frustrate the collection, there will be no expenditure. And all this boils down to politics. And you have shown me the deal and the two big phases. There are no two big phases in Kenya. There is a president. The president occupies his own space. And the person of a president in Kenya will always remain above all the rest. The rest are citizens. And I think it has reached a time, and we said little things count.
Yes.
I remember in 2002, during the big transition, the first major democratic transition from a living sitting president to a new president in Kenya under Moi. Moi was supporting Uhuru Kenyatta very strongly. Yeah, but when he realized that he had been defeated and the people had elected Kibaki, Moi as a responsible statesman, there is a character of a statesman and a calling of a statesman. He knew the first thing I have to do is to rally full support to the new president, despite the fact that I did not support. And he ordered Uhuru Kenyatta to prepare a concession speech and read the concession speech, which he did. And conceding alone defeat is part of democratic duty. It is what brings peace. It's what brings peace. Allow me to finish. And after that, Kibaki was able to settle and organize government. He reorganized revenue collection measures. Remember, revenue collection was at 250 billion. But at the end of his term, it was almost at 1 trillion. And he was able to, the domestic revenue collection was able to finance the entire budget of Kenya government. And by the time Uhuru left, it was at 2.1 trillion. And that is the essence of being democratic and accepting the functions of democracy. Let's come back, fast forward. We started messing in 2007. We brought down an economy that was growing at 7.1% down to 1.8. We undid it with politics by engaging in undemocratic beliefs. Now, what should happen where we are now? That deal, if we want a deal for Kenya, there is one thing that needs to be done. Uhuru Kenyatta, the president who retired, must publicly come in a sober mood and with a clean mind and with a heart of a statesman, tell the people of Kenya that the president of the Republic of Kenya is William Samoei Ruto. He does recognize as a retired president, he supports, and all Kenyans must support the president who is elected. That practice is done in the US. He has not done it.
I think
if
we're
he
relying
does
so
that,
much on history and
if
not
he
learning
does that,
from the same history.
No, things that must be done now.
Because
away from history.
Because
Allow
you see,
me to finish.
we keep going back. We keep going back to what has happened before. But then you realize we are in an age where we are not informed by the same history that we purport to have known very well. We don't need Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta to come and say that Ruto is the president.
He must recognize.
Kenyans
He must.
voted him the president. He was sworn in. So why then are we giving one particular person the power to come out and say he's not the judiciary? If anything, he's the ex-president right now. So let us focus on the issues that are pertinent to Kenyans and let bygones be bygones.
What he's doing is the one sponsoring all this confusion.
If we're going,
he has not recognized as an outgoing president. It is important.
But now you see that Kenyans just want an economic
we can never authenticate that, Mheshimiwa Sossion, that he's the sponsor.
Now allow me to finish, because she interjected, and that was our.
But just to make it clear that we cannot authenticate that allegation.
Any presidential candidate who loses in an election must concede. So if the two go together, that an outgoing president recognized as an elected president, a presidential election loser concedes, if this were done immediately after 9th of August, we wouldn't have had all these contestations. The country could have settled and we would have had smooth operation of institutions. And right now, we would be collecting revenue and we would be working. That's a fundamental fact.
Victor, we always know that a president is a symbol of unity.
Right.
And I want to say that even former president, let's see, like what our sister is saying, that we don't have to go to history. When Moi handed over power peacefully to Kibaki, and he acknowledged that government, and irrespected, things actually moved on well in Kenya. Smoothly. When it came to now, you see, the former president, Uhuru, when he left the office, he insisted and he stick to his party. And up to now, he still believes that he's the party leader. So the challenge, that is where the challenge is, because some of the Azimio team are still seeing him as a symbol of unity within amongst themselves, and that is why you find that there's a lot of challenges. The other day he said that I'm willing and I'm ready to meet with His Excellency the President, Dr. Samuel Ruto, which I'm encouraging him to meet him and also go public, like what you have said. And this actually is going to finish this Olobalu in our country. Yes.
Okay. I want us to move a step further and take, I've not taken you through the front page of the Star. Raila, why we believe Ruto on the wrong path? We had already started the discussion. Raila, why we believe Ruto on the wrong path? That is on the front page of the Star. He says that President's foreign policy has left Kenya embarrassed on world stage. Raila was speaking yesterday with a foreign media house. I think that's where we should stop at that particular point for the front page of our local dailies. Now, let's get to the real discussion. We're talking about politics, sustainable development, and good governance. Gentlemen and lady, you've correctly put it. Because of good governance, we must have politics plays a key role here. And you've mentioned former president, taking back to the history. Based on what we have, how do you connect politics, good governance, and sustainable development? Currently, we are almost 1 year into the new government after an election. We can take stock on that. Let me start with you, Christine.
Well, it will take a paradigm shift. Because we cannot have the same solutions to the same problems. We cannot have the same people who cause these problems also forcing solutions upon us. And you see, that is the history that we have been accustomed to. Social welfare, kind of an issue where it's, like I said here before, I will share democracy, where you're doing something because I do not have. You're feeling like I am entitled to roads. So when you're talking about sustainable development, how am I supposed to transport my goods from the shamba to the market when there are no roads? That is what Kenyans want. It's not an issue of who was the former president and who is the current president. It's about just putting systems in place. Hospitals now, even our level 5 hospitals, do not have proper infrastructures in place to make sure that the most simple of diseases that we are accustomed to in the tropics, malaria, is not addressed. And so these are the pertinent issues. When we're talking about access to water, access to the basic human rights, we do not have that. And that is why people are, I can tell you for a fact, not a lot of people here in Kenya are willing to die for this country. But those who are willing to die for this country are also frustrated because of the custodians of democracy who think that they own democracy more than other people. Young people for the longest time in this country have been asking for access to even do that economic empowerment. The cost of registering a company today here in Kenya is ridiculous. Why can't we even get tax exemptions for those who are just starting off to then help raise that economic charter? When we come to talk about the African Free Continental Trade, the cost of just a flight from here to Uganda is not affordable to that particular young person who wants to do business. And so as a government, as those conversations that we are having to make sure that there are policies in place to make sure that the cost of running business is reduced and favorable to increase that tax. And then the government can come back and tax, for sure. But then you realize that the cost of production is ridiculously high. We'd rather
Which, of course, the president is saying that he's working on to make sure the cost of production to have that triple effect.
Victor, we're now at a time where we are playing catch up. We do not have the time to keep thinking. We need action. We've been thinking for the longest time in this country. We are playing catch up right now. And if we don't catch up sooner, then we'll be overtaken. And I think that's why there's a lot of bile when it comes to President Suluhu being in the country or not. Because the other day we heard her say that they've, for the first time, experienced a lot of private investors going to Tanzania because the neighbors, which is us, is burning. Well, That can be debatable, but that also goes to show that we're also growing as a democracy, that the development partner is not seeing the need to stay in the country. They'd rather go elsewhere and help. But then, all the gains that we have gotten as a country, we are losing it because of our political processes as too historically engaged.
Very well. Mheshimiwa Sossion, as you respond to that, how do you connect? Because there must be a very thin line between politics, sustainable development, and good governance. A very thin line.
A very thin or no line at all. They are intertwined and they are gelled together. There's nothing in my policy studies, and I've done analysis over time. Everything, the foundation of development is politics. It is politics and it is leadership. That's a fact for sure. But then before I come back to that, let me get to the issue of catch-up.
Go ahead.
We cannot be on catch-up mode throughout. And I think we need to drop that. And that is what Kenya Kwanza intended to do, to drop the catch-up mode, and we engage in real revolution and transformation of our economy. Then what does it take? It's a leadership. Leadership. If you look at the Asian tigers, like I can give example of Malaysia. I've been to Malaysia. The Prime Minister of Malaysia, who is elected, is automatically the Minister of Finance. And he supervises all the strategic plans of all the ministries. And they must all be reviewed mid-term to ensure that they must be attained at the end of 5 years. So the nation and the country has what they call strategic plan, the national and ministry strategic plans. And they've worked on 5-year strategic plans. When I was there in 2007, they were on what we call the 9th Malaysian strategic plan, and they're working on strategic plan that has transformed their technology and everything, and it is all about leadership. And Malaysia came to benchmark with us in the 60s. We can go on Korea, the same, and they've transformed themselves because of commitment to leadership and investing in their resources and reducing their corruption to zero. In those countries, corruption is punishable by death, but here we changed after independence. We engaged in cartelism, we engaged in corruption, we engaged in cronyism, we engaged in promoting dynasties, and we engaged in wrong leadership. We are still trying to do the same to create confusion. We have lost 1 year after election. This is a 5-year term for Kenya Kwanza. We have lost 1 year. We have a balance of 4 years for Kenya Kwanza, so that we can see the plan of Kenya Kwanza working. So all this is politics. But I can say Kenya as an economy, it can't even match with Tanzania. Tanzania is not a destination of investment for anybody. Kenya, globally, yes, that's a fact. Kenya is an economic hub, a global economic hub, and a strategic communication hub. Anybody wanting to invest in South Sudan will keep the money in Kenya. Anybody investing in Rwanda will keep in Kenya. Anybody investing in DR Congo will keep in Kenya. In Tanzania will keep in Kenya. So the first stop and the place of opportunity is Kenya. All we need to do is to throw away this dirt of politics out of the window, and everything will work. That's a fact for sure. So we need the cleanest politics ever in this country, and we need to sanitize the political environment. If it is a strong leadership, we have it now. If it is a transformative agenda, we have it. If we want to transform agriculture, that's the big agenda of Kenya Kwanza in terms of injection of inputs, resources, and expertise. It is going to change. If we want to transform the micro, small, medium enterprise, Kenya Kwanza has it. If we want to expand and grow the digital space, no country in Africa has got digital infrastructure like Kenya.
I'm happy
if we want to deal with settlement, it is here.
I'm
if
happy
we
you're
want
saying
to
that,
improve the
Mheshimiwa
healthcare, we are a powerful country that can join the global economic tigers and compete. We cannot be talking about competing Tanzania
makes
and
me happy.
Uganda, so we have that opportunity.
That makes me
we
happy,
need
Mheshimiwa.
to do it now.
Yes.
We must do it. And let the president and Kenya Kwanza implement their manifesto.
Okay, thank you.
Then we evaluate in 2027.
Let's take a break. What makes me happy as a Kenyan is that we should not play catch up. I mean, we should be at par with the ancient tigers, the way, I mean, Christine is disagreeing. Let's take a break. Let's take a break. We'll be right back with more. Today we're talking about politics, sustainable development, and good governance in our country. Which way, Kenya? We are in 2023. We are celebrating almost 13 years into the new devolution, new constitution. We are taking a look at that after this break. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. With Honorable Wilson Sossion, Member of Parliament, Christine Odera, Youth, Peace, and Security Practitioner and an expert, and Joseph Cherorot, Member of Parliament, Kipkelion East Constituency. Today, our discussion is all about politics, sustainable development, and good governance. Which way, Kenya? Mheshimiwa Sossion says that all these things, politics is the common denominator. But where is the sustainable development and good governance now coming in? Politics is taking its stage, Mheshimiwa Cherorot. Politics is taking its place. So the remaining two, where do they come in?
You see, Victor, I want to tell you this about politics, governance, and development. Actually, I can say that when it comes to leadership, I want to say that good leadership or good governance is blended with good leadership. And that is why in this country, we need to have the right leader. As we talk now, like what we've said, we've had several types of leaders in this country. The current leader that we have is visionary. He has a lot of plans. He has the plan, you call it the plan for this country. And this plan actually is supposed to be implemented. We have 5 years to make sure that the plan is implemented. And we have started off. It is only 1 year. I don't believe on the critics that they are criticizing the government. They started the first day. Please, we should give the president room to make sure that he delivers the manifesto and the plan. We have a lot of, when we see like in the agenda, we have the hustler, they have the hustlers, we have the universal healthcare, we have several agendas to perform in this country. And our president actually, the issue of corruption, like we've seen in several institutions, those who are involved in corruption, they have been actually kicked out of the ministries, they have been removed from the organizations, and right now the government is very keen in making sure that the country is actually moving forward with the development agenda. Yes.
Okay. You know, all of you are well traveled. What is the general outlook of Kenya as we speak 1 year down the line, or even not even 1 year down the line, generally? What is the general outlook of Kenya to the international community in terms of development and governance? Where do we stand? Mheshimiwa Cherorot.
Victor, I want to say that it's about the perception. What the media is writing there, like what you have been seeing now. And I want to ask the media fraternity to be patriotic and make sure that we market this country out there. You see what is in the media? The foreigners or the foreign countries can read what is in there, and they believe in it. That Kenya is burning. And when you come to Kenya, people are moving peacefully in the streets. And but you see the highlights, small issues, small challenges that are there. You find that they magnify, they make sure that they build a mountain out of a molehill. I think what we have to do is that, like the media, like what about this, let me go back, take you back a bit about this increment. I would like to see media houses writing that there has been an increment, there is this and this, instead of doing the negative. And by doing so, we are going actually to build this country.
In my media training, no news is good news.
Victor,
when a dog bites a man,
that is news.
Because it's capitalistic. And that's why the agenda setting is also quite...
You'll excuse me for that. But
if a man bites a dog,
exactly. Now that is news. But I think we need to move away from...
When a dog bites a man, it's not news.
Sure.
I'm completely being crucified on behalf of my colleagues. Okay. You know what, Christine? The general outlook of our country, the president is actually doing a reach out to the African Union. We had heads of state here several days ago. The foreign policy of Kenya is quite open for everyone to see. So how do we bring it back to our development so that we take advantage of the African Union? We have got other foreign bodies that we are also members to.
Yes.
How do we take advantage of that to improve on our governance?
You know, it goes down to the name sustainability in by itself. What is sustainability? And that, as a country, we need to define what sustainability means to Kenyans.
Yeah.
Because you see, when it comes to foreign policy, you're also looking at your own interest that
as a
you're
nation.
sharing to the world.
Okay.
And also looking at all these partners that are coming to Kenya, what interest are they serving for us as a people? And I'll go back to what the right Mheshimiwa said. As a country, we have not developed one strategic plan as a country, let alone the political parties or whoever comes in as a president. Do we have a strategic plan that we are working on as a country that we then review? And so in each electoral cycle, we are just adding to this broader strategic plan and then sit and review that strategic plan so that it's sustainable.
Yeah.
Because Mheshimiwa here will come with his own ideas and the things that he will champion. When Christine becomes president, I also come with my own ideas. But so where do we leave the country? That is the question that we need to answer because it's there.
No blocks, kind of a blueprint.
Absolutely. We don't have a blueprint as a country where we are adding to, where we can also sit and say, this is where we have come 60 years down the line. This is what we need to change. This is what we need to change to. We have been working on this. We have gotten here. Like, let's take, for instance, the infrastructure. We have, for the longest time, cried that we don't have roads. Now we have some roads. The expressway is working, right? Now that we have that road in Nairobi, the person in Turkana, does he have the same access that we have in Nairobi? So you see, again, it is not nationalistic, it's a county development agenda. And that is why the other day I was very happy when Nairobi County was stopped from implementing the food, project.
Yes.
Because what does that then say to that young person in Bogoria who walks barefoot to class, who does not have bridges to cross when the road, when the rain rains? And so we need to also look at nationalistic ways where we are not putting other people at a disadvantage. That can only happen when, as a country, we have a strategic plan that then all these parties, all these new presidents that will be coming in are aligned to and also get a chance to be informed on what successes the country has gotten to. And so their manifestos will also be aligned with what's missing from what has already been done.
That goes,
and not starting
that's also calls upon the issue of policy as a nation, Mheshimiwa Sossion.
Absolutely.
Our policy as a nation, which also magnifies what we stand for. I don't know what's your response to that.
Now, if you look at the type of leadership that we have all over the world, like, of course, when you talk of Malaysia, it's a monarchy, come democracy. So there's a king, and there are about nine regional kings.
Yes.
So when you talk of the strategic plan, it's confined to the monarchy itself. When you look at the UK, there are monarchies. Most of these developed economies are monarchies. Then you have parliament and democratic entities working. Kenya is a pure democracy. It doesn't have a monarchy. Like the US, these are pure democracies. So it is the policies of the ruling party that prevails for that moment. That's the reality. So when Kenya Kwanza was elected, the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza automatically falls in place for the period that it is here, for 5 years. And I think what we need to do, and this is what I've been talking about, when I suggest that the outgoing president, Uhuru Kenyatta, and should have declared to the public immediately after election, and Raila Odinga should have considered at that time, it is not for anything. It is to create an enabling space for this manifesto to be tested for 5 years. It is a strategic plan for this period so that everything falls in place. And in any case, if you look at the manifesto of Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, they speak to more or less similar things with varying changes. And you can criticize such a national development plan through existing structures and institutions like Parliament. That is where you adjudicate. And our Constitution, in terms of values and principles and governance, Article 10 talks of public participation. In as much as you've come with a manifesto, the Kenya Kwanza plan, anything being done, policy, legislation, programs will be subject to public participation. That means it must receive the public approval, public audit, public enrichment, because at the end of the day, it belongs to the country.
Right.
So what we need to correct in this country is political culture. What should we do when, and what should we not do when? So when elections are over, like now the stories of, Sulu was in the country. Sulu is not a Kenyan. She's not a voter in Kenya. And I think
that begs the question.
No. Allow me. Let us learn to manage our politics at home and finish our politics at home respectfully and carry on with lives of Kenyans. As you can see, the young Kenyans are talking about how do we fit in this space, these challenges, how do you get rid of them? You cannot get rid of them when you create an atmosphere of confusion in governance. That one is, we shall pay a price for generations. And I have said here, and I still repeat, Kenya cannot compare with any nation around within the region in terms of opportunities for investment and opportunities for growth. It can't.
Based on
and I think
what
it
you're
is
saying,
now time.
Based on what you're saying.
It is time. It is time we strengthen leadership in this country. And we also strengthen the political framework.
So where's the Constitution, the new one that we pride ourselves of, I mean, has not joined those dots that brings that sense of clean leadership?
No, the problem that we have is not the Constitution. It is not even the laws. It is our own behavior. It is our own
so that brings the question, so how do we clean it? Because we have a Constitution, that is our guiding principle.
Yes, because let me take you back. Let me take you back to practical example.
Go ahead.
There was a handshake regime, and that handshake, transformed itself to Azimio.
Yes.
What the handshake regime was speaking before elections on 9th of August is different from what they're speaking and doing now. They're now talking loud. They are champions of fighting the cost of living. And the cost of living went high when they were superintending. That is absolute. That is absolute. It's not politics. This is a fact. This is not politics, because we are not honest. What you speak in 2015, you should be consistent about it in 2016, 2017, 2018.
I disagree with
and that is indecent. and the media should not promote indecent politics. Media should promote a strong culture of good governance and decent politics. That's a fact for sure. Because why do you speak something different in 2022, then say something in 2023, just merely to suit
that is your character as politicians.
Those are wrong. No.
That's your character.
Don't just push it and say those are politicians.
You shift goalposts, then you come and blink the
politicians
media.
And politics. Politicians and politics.
Let me get your voice.
Victor, politicians and politics cannot affect development. Don't just wish it away. That's the wrong thing to do.
But you also need to change the culture of shifting goalposts.
See, Victor, I think we should not. We don't have to blame politicians. This is not about politicians.
Don't blame and don't push it away.
I want us to identify individuals, and it is high time that we come out with the truth that this person is one who is causing problems. It's not about politics. It's about an individual. Let me ask you, why are we agitating for this? Why are we demonstrating in the street? Why are we going back to the street after handing over power? Uhuru Kenyatta handed over the instruments of power to the president, the current president. And after that, he goes and he has his gang, he forms his group, and then he starts fighting the same government. Like what was happening, Victor, the other day, we saw a lot of politics, a lot of highlights about Uhuru's son being actually, people went to his house to search for those guns and all that. And what he said is that the children have been using these guns to go and kill birds. We are allowed to kill birds in this country. Actually, I think Kenya wildlife should be on his neck because of that.
And killing birds in Mwea.
Yeah, killing birds in Mwea. So what I want to tell you, Victor, is that let's be realistic. Let Kenyans tell us the truth. If you are going to demonstrate, what do you want as an individual?
And how are you going to demonstrate?
And we should not do this thing collectively and blame every Kenyan. We have, the Kenyans are so resilient, and even the leaders who are there. So politicians should not be actually blamed for everything, but they are doing the good job of bringing the country together.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Christine,
Yes.
I mean, we have to give it to the government, because the sitting government bears the entire mantle of responsibility to steer the country to the next level.
Absolutely.
When you look at the Kenya Kwanza manifesto and the plan, the president has a plan to mandate with a 5-year contract. How is he going to maneuver through this so that at the end of the day, the development agenda of Kenya Kwanza is completely in line with the expectation of Mwananchi? Remember, we have got a foreign policy, which I'll also come back to.
Yes.
So that we take advantage of our foreign policy,
Yes.
our foreign friends, the big boys out there, and tie it with our development here in the country, based on what the Kenya Kwanza is working on for the delivery.
When you look at better, it is ambitious, and it gives this illusion of transformation, which every young person, that's the language we want to hear.
Yeah.
We are moving digital, and again, we don't have the time to play catch up, because things are happening fast. You know, when we're seated here, you're all connected into the international space. So news is spreading very fast. And that's why now we are seeing a lot of brain drain. Why? Because you'd rather go to systems where are able to meet your economic capacities, and you're also able to feel like you're part and parcel of the bigger picture that then helps the transformation process.
Yes.
Right? So I actually applaud the president in looking at what the needs of the country in 2023 are, because we cannot in 2023 be thinking that we're in the 90s. That time has already passed, and in that I applaud the president. However, we get to see that the time frames are not aligning with the transformation, and that is where the agitation then is coming from.
Yeah.
You know, so it calls for us to work really hard to implement the policies that have not been implemented, and get to review these policies that have not been implemented, because who is doing the legal and ethical audits of all these projects that governments have been doing? And that's why I go back to saying, much as we have been borrowing from the monarchies in Malaysia and the US, what are those aspects of democracy from their perspective that we can borrow? And that then goes to beg the question of, do we need a particular country strategic plan that is not necessarily destroyed when another government comes into place? Then there's some level of consistency and not a complete change of all the gains that we have had as a country, because that is now the problem that we're seeing. The Uhuru's government came up with a Huduma number, the Huduma centers. Now it's easy for us to access government documents online. We should be now talking about something else that helps then increase the gains that we've had with the Huduma centers, because they have been working and they have been really helping. But now you're seeing that we're having a challenge with passports. We were having challenges with passports. That should not be a case when we've already moved digitally.
Okay.
So then, unless we have a consistency in some of our development gains, then sustainability is questionable.
Okay.
Yes.
This brings to the question, which way Kenya? Mheshimiwa Sossion, which way Kenya?
No, very simple. We gave ourselves the Constitution of Kenya 2010. We transited from a live presidency to a democratic president with a term limit of 10 years in 2002. And we saw the tremendous results in terms of economic transformation.
Yes.
But we've not changed our political culture. You can change the forest, but the monkeys remain
The same.
the same.
Yeah.
Can we? I am very specific with Article 10 of the Constitution, principle of values and governance, and we need to strengthen political values and governance. And I've said, on election day, what is the purpose of election? To elect leaders. and leadership is not a right. It is a privilege given to you. Honorable Cherorot does not hold a title deed of being MP Kipkelion. It's a privilege. He's holding it. The people can take it away, and our constitution is clear. People of Kenya are sovereign, and they can exercise their powers directly or indirectly. The moment the political institutions transform themselves and begin practicing the culture of respecting the people, I think that is when we'll begin moving forward. Because then if today Azimio is elected and it comes to government, Kenya Kwanza must accept, respect and occupy its traditional space. Now Kenya Kwanza has been elected. It is here and it has a mandate of 5 years. So coming around and saying, oh, open the server, oh, we want to, we now have politics on IEBC, oh, the cost of living. Now you create confusion. The way I look at it is that the activities around Kenya Kwanza, particularly these demonstrations that are grossly illegal, they don't meet the minimum threshold of decent demonstrations that are practiced all over the world. We have seen people demonstrating in France yesterday, in Israel, and all over. But here we see we perpetuate violence that brings down a country. Why are we always so keen in supporting a government that is in place so that you think it becomes easy for you to defeat it in the next election? When we finish an election, we begin destroying the country to prepare for the next election. That is not right. We must change our culture. If today you are elected president, I must respect you. If Cherorot is elected president, I must respect. Let us develop that culture. And Moi showed us. He supported Uhuru. And when Uhuru was defeated, he shifted his loyalty and support directly and his whole life and heart to Mwai Kibaki. Absolutely. And when Uhuru was elected in 2013, Kibaki and Moi collectively with their hearts supported Uhuru Kenyatta. That's the culture we need to carry on. Why did we change the constitution? Why did we change all these things? Then we practice the opposite. Actually, what we are doing, what Azimio are doing, are actually undermining the constitution and the political culture that we have developed instead of supporting it. Because we still have a future. And that future is open to anybody. If you look at democracies in the US, there are moments when Republicans come to reign. There are moments when the Democrats come in, and it is common knowledge that interchange will always be there. But the culture is, once a president is elected, is the president of the United States of America. And Americans rally behind that person.
Let me get your voice on that.
My word here is that every Kenyan, the day and the moment that Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, those two individuals, tell Kenyans from their hearts and from statesmanship that we recognize William Ruto as the president and we support for this time.
All right, thank you.
And then they play their role.
Thank you.
For Raila, he can play opposition role very well, comfortably, supported
sanity.
through state infrastructure. And I'm sure there is even a proposal in Parliament, a presidential memorandum to create the office of the leader of the opposition and give the infrastructure so that we run a governance that everybody participates in.
Thank you.
I think you as a media, you should open up a space for good things. Don't inflame negative things that people have done. You are doing it. You're doing it. And in fact, no, I'm not crucifying. I'm saying it. Media are my friends. I've lived with them. I've grown. They've made me who I am.
Yes.
But do you know, in 2007, Grigla reports in the media that it activated and fueled the conflicts. You know, in media, negative things is news. But sometimes you must think what is really is good for the country. So that you as media, you shape the development and shape politics. It is a challenge I'm throwing to you, very honestly, as a Kenyan.
That's a point for us to take a look when we
You have a homework.
We have a conference. We will discuss that later.
Yeah, you have a homework.
Cherorot, which way Kenya? I mean, we are here. Leaders, the legislative part of government, which way Kenya, from where you sit?
Victor, we have to ask ourselves, where did the first rain started beating us?
A big question, yes.
You see, in Kenya, I think it's the only country whereby the ruling president refused to acknowledge his deputy or to recognize. And he ended up kicking him out. And he brought in the opposition leader, have the handshake, And here, the opposition leader ended up being the candidate of the government. It only happened in Kenya. It has never happened in another country. So what I want to say is that is where the first train started between us. And then after that, even though he handed over the power, still he didn't acknowledge. So it's high time for him to come out. And I think this country will move forward if the two leaders, the two protagonists, the former president and Azimio leader, and even the other team. I saw them the other day on TV, and they looked like bitten. They were rained on. Yeah. So what I want to say is that let's put down all the tools and start actually reconstructing this country. Those who have been affected, I know several properties have been lost, several lives have been lost. Let's come up together and reason together and move forward. And another thing that I want to add on top of that is that Kenyans, we should come up together. And also the media people, you should have a caucus of actually meeting together and talking positive things about the government. And I think that's going to help us. So it's high time that all our youth and all the classes, the upper class, the middle class, and even the low class, come together and reason together as Kenyans. We have the best country. We should not destroy this country. We should not ban our country. Yeah.
Takes you back to the proverb we started with. If you want to, a mosquito, a very small thing. Yes. Let me finish with you, Christine.
Yeah, which way, Kenya? We are the future, as everyone keeps saying. And you see, my challenge to my Waheshimiwas here is, would you be willing, next time you get that nomination, to say, I am going to be a kingmaker and help a younger person take up this seat? Would you do that?
Absolutely.
Because, you see, we keep saying it's a problem of leadership. It's a problem of leadership. But we've never had someone just say, you know what, I have served, nimechoka. I have done the best I have done for this country. Let me pass on the baton. You know, that is the leadership that we now we need to start seeing, because we have had the same people, the same ideologies being shared since Kenya got independence. A whole lot of young people want to occupy this space and actually be the change that we want to see. You know, so next time, my challenge to the Waheshimiwa here is, once you get that nomination, say, you know what, I will support another young person in my constituency or in my region to take up that seat, and I will support them. Then we will start to see tangible effects of our leadership. But what we have right now in the country is a managerial position, not a leadership position, because the visions are not shared. We are not seeing the visions of the purported leaders. You know, and I say this carefully because I will be that leader tomorrow. I am playing in that leadership role now.
In a political position?
And I am not immune. I am not in a political position. But then you never know what tomorrow holds. And so I also take accountability to say that I am also responsible with what I share, with some of the platforms that I am in, what I am able to influence, the policies that I'm able to work on. Because let's remember also, youthfulness is a changing state. There were once youth.
And young people also grow old.
And young people also grow old, you know? And so let us also look at a future where we'll be able to look back and not say, I messed up a generation that's coming up. I messed up my grandchildren's generation because I was not able to do that which I was supposed to do to help the entire nation and not just specifically my family.
All right. Thank you so much. Mheshimiwa Sossion, there's a comment here for you from, he's calling himself Mwalimu Kibe. He said that based on the headline on the Standard, you've given them some hope to the civil servant. I think he's a teacher, so probably you explain them to them.
I've set the record straight because you see, the culture we have in Kenya is circulating negative information, which is not authentic, and that gives negative perception.
I think Mwalimu Kibe is happy.
Yes, he's very happy. And I'm sure all teachers are happy. I'm sure civil servants are happy. I'm sure the police are happy.
Absolutely.
And the country will be happy.
You see your voice is heavy here. Mheshimiwa Cherorot, there's a gentleman called Keegan Wilborn. This is your constituent. He says, morning and thanks for program. Greet my area MP, Honorable Cherorot. Thanks for the good work and thanks for drilling water in my area, Kimaut. Then the question is, what are your plans to youth employment at Sonko Kimaut? That's your question there.
Yeah, they are aware about what is going on in the government, and whatever the positions I get, I usually distribute according to the wards that we have in the constituency. And very soon I'm going also to have a training with the border guys. We are going to train 50 to get driving licenses, 50 from every ward. And another thing is that the other day I had a meeting with 80 groups which have been formed in my constituency. And soon we are going to have some fundraising for them, and also to make sure that they access. We have the WESO Fund, we have Women Enterprise, and we also have the Hustler Fund. They should take advantage of that.
Yeah. All right. And what is the situation at Lundiani, the market so far? Everything coming
so
down?
far, kind of tried to reconstruct and put those rubbles. And right now, we still have the same people who have come to the road. We cannot blame them, but they have to be careful. And I want to also advise the truck drivers to drive carefully from our summit going down. Yeah. And we are going to have a meeting today with the governor, and I'm going to remind him about the land which is supposed to be procured, so that we can be able to put up the market there. And then those people will get in there, and we can have an access road, which will also help. If you want to buy, you get into that access road, you buy your stuff, and then you leave. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Sounds great, because your area was worst affected during that accident, and so far, so good. All right. I think that's where we need to wrap it up. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me on the show. Wilson Sossion, nominated member of parliament, and Christine Odera, who is a youth peace. Sorry.
Former.
Former.
And former SG Nat.
And incoming CS.
Christine Odera, youth, peace and security practitioner and an expert, as well as Joseph Cherorot, member of parliament, Kipkelion East. Somebody is asking, why did I bring UD affiliated? No, we have to get facts right. Who said we cannot get a solution?
I am not UD.
No. Because of Cherorot and Wilson Sossion, we have to get a solution.
I'm a politician, you're CS.
I'm CS, he's a politician.
So get it. So your answer.
He's a peace expert. So
thank you so much.
We are different.
Thank you so much. Answer gotten. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming to the show. And you as a viewer, asante sana for joining us. Good morning. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I'm surprised teachers are watching this.